Hey everyone, welcome to another tutorial. Today we take a look at this brand new phone gimbal here from Insta360. That's the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro, a phone gimbal for my iPhone 15 Pro Max, but you can also use this with other phones. Super nicely made, and in this video I'm going to show you all the nice features which this phone gimbal here offers you. We will record a video. I will show you how to track subjects and objects. I'm going to show you how to take a panorama photo. I will show you how to take a time lapse or a time shift, how to change the resolution and the frame rate. And if you decide at the end of this video that this is a nice gadget for your content, you can use the link in the video description below to support my channel. Now let's get started. This one is a small LED which you can attach to the gimbal itself. There are two buttons here on the side, one for the intensity and one for the white balance. And here you got a USB-C plug for the gimbal itself. Super nice tool, especially during night. It gives you a really nice look as shown here in this video. Next thing we're gonna take a look at is this gimbal itself. As you can see here on the bottom side is a tripod thread, so you can attach the gimbal to any tripod out there. And inside here is also a small tripod which you can extend. Then you can take out these legs and place it somewhere for a time lapse, for instance. And to extend the gimbal, so to have like an overview of where you are, you can extend the arm right here, and on top, as you can see, you can tilt it. That is super nice for taking selfies wherever you go. Nice tool. And here on the top side it says NFC. So once you hold your phone close to that surface, it will connect to the gimbal automatically. Here at the side is a USB-C plug. It says in. So anytime you want to charge the gimbal, no problem at all, use a power bank. There was a cable included, but not a power plug. So I would recommend you this power bank here. You can charge your MacBook with that, you can charge your proper cameras with that, your phone, and also this gimbal here. Link in the video description below. You got one button right here. If you push that once, you start tracking. If you push that once again, you stop tracking. If you double tap on this button, you will center the gimbal. So anytime it looks a bit weird or your phone might not be centered, push that button twice and then your phone's gonna be centered. If you push that button 3 times, your phone will turn around by 180 degrees. There's a small dial right here. If you hold that and turn it, you can zoom in very smoothly. And if you push that, you zoom in steps. So depends on the amount of lenses your phone has to offer. So if I do this, it will zoom in instantly, and if you hold and turn it, it will zoom in very smoothly. There are some buttons here on the front side. If you want to turn the camera, so if you want to switch from the front to the rear camera, you need to push that button here once. If you want to take a photo or a video, you need to push this button here once. If you want to change the mode, let's say from FPV to point and follow, you need to push that button here once. You can also use this button here to turn on the gimbal, but I will show you also a second method to do this. There are different kind of combinations of how to use these buttons right here. If you double tap them, triple tap them, or make a single tap on them, but you will see small tutorials inside the Insta360 app which will guide you to this. And here's a joystick which helps you to turn the gimbal in all directions. So to turn on the gimbal, I will simply unfold it. In this video, I'm gonna make use of my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Down here we have a USB-C port. If you have a longer journey in front of you, make sure to charge your phone's battery. You will be able to make use of the internal battery of the gimbal itself. However, to extend the time, I would recommend to charge both batteries while going out. So you got this phone clamp here, which needs to be roughly in the middle. There's also a MagSafe version, which is super nice because you can use that also for other things like watching movies, texting, and having like FaceTime calls or something like that. The first thing you need to do is enable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and then download the free app, which looks like this, Insta360. tap on this one here. If you use this app for the first time and you turn on the gimbal, they will find each other if you have selected Bluetooth on. One question I got asked so many times is how to remove the watermark. Go to settings, scroll down, and then it says Leica watermark, you need to use that toggle switch, or shot on watermark, you need to disengage both of them, and then you don't see any watermark. All the shots using the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro are listed down here at album, and to start the camera, you need to push this button right here. And then we're in movie mode. On the top left, you see 3 dots. You can enable a grid, for instance, to level the horizon. You got a histogram. I don't need these ones. Selfie flip. If you want to push this button here for 3 times, it goes into selfie mode. If I push that for another 3 times, it will turn into the other direction. Automatic pop-up connection. So anytime you're getting close to the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro and your Bluetooth is enabled and you push the Insta360 app, they will find each other. Scene recognition, you will see that once you start filming in a city or in a jungle, it gives you some recommendations of how to take a great scene. Voice control is enabled at the moment, and you can also make use of Apple ProRes, and then you would be able to record also in a log profile. GPS is enabled to see where I took the photos, the panorama, or the videos. You got a quick start guide. You can enable all the tutorials. I skipped these already, so you won't see them in this video again. But once you start filming the first time, you will see some tutorials. If you want to restore them, make sure to enable tutorial. And a really cool feature that I can recommend to you is to use the button guide. So what each individual button does, you can also scroll to the right, and then it shows you what you can do if you ever forget it. And something I have done is I went to screen off during recording to 90 seconds, so 1.5 minutes. So anytime I started to take a time lapse, my display of the phone turns off or it goes into a dark mode to extend the battery life for a longer time lapse. There's also one button which says reset settings. Up here are the flow settings, so you can make use of the auto feature, follow mode, pan and follow. So anytime you turn the gimbal, it will start following. And FPV is like the completely free mode, so you can turn in all directions, you can do spin shots and all that kind of stuff. But something I would recommend is, I'm not going to show you everything in that video, but the more you try out, the better it is. You got a zoom wheel, which you can also use for manual focusing. Here's the motor strength. Since I'm using here a bigger phone, I went to high. If you have an iPhone, let's say 12 mini or something, you probably only need medium or low, but in this case I'm using high, which does cost more battery. However, I have really good stabilization using the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. Here you can set the follow speed, the joystick speed, and something I would recommend is try it out by yourself. That's something you have full control over and you would say, that's a bit too slow, I want that faster, or I need that even slower like it is. Then I would adjust all these settings right here. And as you can see, you can also reverse the joystick vertically, reverse joystick horizontally. So if you want to have that in the other direction, you can reverse that. And here is also the auto calibration, which shows you what you need to do in order to make a calibration, which we're gonna do now. You need to place the Insta360 Flow on a flat surface, and then it will calibrate itself with the phone you have attached. Calibration successful. If you want to do a manual exposures of your videos, you can go up here and go to manual. There's the shutter speed, the ISO, and down here is the white balance, which we speak about later when it comes to time lapses. So anytime it turns dark outside, I went to manual mode because I always want to have the same look on my videos. And then I figured out, well, that is a useful feature during the day. If you're on vacation and you just want to film something very quick, I would leave it just in auto. Up here you can change the resolution and the frame rate. 50 frames per second is missing for whatever reason. Right here you can select 4K, 1080p, 720p, and these settings also depends also on your phone. So if you have a phone which does not record in 4K, you won't see 4K, but that's an iPhone 15 Pro Max, which allows me to record in 4K with up to 60 frames per second. However, I would have appreciated also to see 50 frames per second. So, and if you're just going outside and you want to do basic filming, you want to film your wife, or you want to film your kids, or you want to film an interview situation or something, then 4K 25 is absolutely fine. The more action takes place, the higher I would go with the frame rate, just to be able to slow down the clip later on in post. And right here you can go back to your home screen. Inside here you see tons of options. For instance, you have the zoom. So that's the ultra wide lens, 1x, 2x or 5x. You can also use this dial right here, and you have even a 15x zoom right here. And as I showed you at the beginning, I can now make use of the zoom dial, and if I just do this, it jumps back between the individual lenses. And if I hold it, then I zoom in very softly. If I push this button right here, I'm switching the cameras, and the same applies to this button right here. So if I push this, the camera switches to the other side. Now, as you can see, the gimbal is not centered in the direction I wanted, so I double tap on the button behind and then it centers the phone again. If you want to make use of the flash of your phone, you can use this button right here, and there are tons of filters that Insta360 offers you. Really nice stuff. Therefore, you can go up here, but you cannot use them, I think, with 4K 60, so they won't appear up here. So you need to use them with 4K 30, 25 or 24 frames per second. And then you can make use of all the great filters that Insta360 has, and they are really good. I'm not joking. They look so movie-like. Try them out by yourself and you have like a filter for almost any scenario. You have also gesture control. It shows you what to do. So if you hold these two fingers, it will start to take a photo or start recording, single hand person tracking or multi-person tracking. Try them out by yourself, they work really nicely. And you also have a teleprompter. So if you want to read out something and you want to explain something to your audience, you have that teleprompter right here. Really nice. If I want to start a video right now, I push this button right here, and then the camera starts to record a video. If I want to stop recording, I push this button here once again. I can also do that by tapping on this record button here on my phone. And while I'm recording, I can also make use of the zoom function. If you push the top button right here, it starts to record and does a 360-degree turn. That's like super nice. If you place the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro on a tripod and you're on a really nice scenery, like Grand Canyon or something, and you want to have a 360-degree video, and then it stops automatically to record after the turn is complete. If I push this button twice, the camera switches into the horizontal mode, and if I push that 2 times again, it starts to go into vertical mode. Next topic is photo. I'm not going to go through all of these points anymore, but as you can see right here, you have an auto exposure, manual exposure, and when it comes to photos, I would probably just leave it in auto. You have different kind of options about the ratio. You can record in a 4:3, 16:9, full or 1:1. You can use also the filters, and you can set the timer if you want to be on the same photo. So if I would go now in front of the camera, I can select a timer, let's say of 5 seconds. I push this button right here or this button right here, and then the timer goes down to 0, and then the camera takes a photo. Then you get some face tune filters. They appear right here. And you have also gesture control. You can make use of all the cameras that your phone has. That's like typical Instagram. That's like a normal photo, I would say. 16:9 is like the entire screen. And if you go full, you don't see any black bars around the phone. But the usual ratio is 4:3. Same applies right here. If I double push this button, it turns in horizontal mode, and if I push this button 2 times again, it starts to go back in vertical mode. The cool thing about such a gimbal is that you turn your phone into one of the best cameras you have with you without carrying a super heavy camera and a super heavy gimbal with you. For instance, we're now in pano mode, and there's a different field that appears on the top right, which says you can either make a 240-degree panorama, you can do also like a globe panorama, 180 degrees panorama, or a 3:3 panorama, which I'll show you now. For instance, I tap on here, I select a timer, so I'm not going to touch the phone while it's doing so, and then I push the record button. It uses a timer, so I'm not going to push it anymore. And then it does everything by itself. It takes now 3 photos here from the top, 3 from the center, and then 3 from the bottom. And you don't need to do anything. It merges them together, and that's it. And then you can share that with your friends. Cool. If you want to have a 180-degree panorama, no problem at all. See, auto exposure, and then it takes a 180-degree panoramic photo for you without any post-editing. So that's really the advantage of having the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro with you on vacation, because if you're at the beach or you have a nice scenery in front of you or behind you and you want to be on the same photo, place it anywhere you want and it does everything by itself. Let's hold here very quick. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial so far. If you do, and this phone gimbal is something that you need for your content, then you will find the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro in the video description below. And of course the nice power bank, which I always use to charge my phone, my MacBook, my camera, and the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. Let's continue. We are now in time-lapse mode, and here you can really see the strengths of having such a small device with you, which makes your videos extremely dynamic. So you can use the filters, you can select a different resolution and frames per second. And right here, you can select an interval. So anytime you want to take a time lapse of something that happens really quick, I would take a short interval, like seen right here. You have a street with a lot of cars passing by. It's like a highway, so there's a lot of cars actually passing by. And anytime you do something that happens really slow, building a house for instance, I would take a long interval, provided that you have connected the Insta360 Flow or your phone with a power bank, for instance. If you just want to take a time lapse of the sky with all the clouds passing by, I would probably take an interval duration of, let's say, 5 to 10 seconds. So everything that happens in between these intervals is not being recorded by the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. And right here you would say, if we would take now a time lapse with an interval of 10 seconds for 20 minutes, you only get a video length of 4 seconds. If I, let's say, go to 5 hours, then it gives me a final video length of 1 minute and 12 seconds. The shorter the interval is, the longer this video will appear at the end. For sunrises and sunsets, I would probably go for 5 seconds. So your phone is also able to record a time-lapse by itself, I know that. Then I would go for a fixed angle, so there's nothing special about it. But the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro allows you to take a time-lapse, a dynamic time-lapse. Let's say from the left to the right. So it takes a moving time-lapse, or from the right to the left. And something I made use many times is a custom track time-lapse. So I start off here, then I would go up here, and I would like to finish, let's say here, so that you can see something right here. And something I would recommend for time lapses is to make use of the manual exposure. Especially during a sunset or a sunrise, the light is changing so quickly that I would probably most of the time underexpose during a sunrise, and I would slightly underexpose as well during a sunset. For instance, right here, I can select a shutter speed right now. I can go for the ISO 100, but that obviously depends on the situation you're in. And the white balance is really important, that you can set it by yourself. Let's say custom, and you can, the minimum is 2000 Kelvin and the maximum is 20,000 Kelvin. And especially during a sunset or a sunrise, as I said, the light is changing so quickly that I would take something that suits your situation. So you will have the same video look while your phone is moving from the left to the right or from the right to the left without a weird look for your time lapse. Then you might be wondering, what is a time shift compared to a time lapse? A time shift does not skip any frames in between. So your phone is constantly recording a video, but it accelerates that video without skipping any frames in between. And right here, you can also select a resolution of 720, 1080, 4K, and here's the speed. So if I would go now behind a person in the park, I would take like 5x. And if I have a really long journey in front of me, I would probably go for 30x. And that's basically it. Slow motion is self-explained. You have some options right here. These settings depends obviously on your phone. So my iPhone 15 Pro Max would be able to take a slow motion video with a maximum resolution of 1080p and 240 frames per second. Keep in mind, you have enough ambient light available. The less ambient light you have available, the more noisy your video will look like. If I would jump now to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, for instance, I would probably see here 4K 120 and not 1080p with 240 frames per second. Then you got a dolly zoom, which kind of explains itself what it does. So you select a surface. I would take a surface with more contrast than this white wall here. And then you need to walk away from that surface while the camera zooms in at the same time, which kind of looks like a 3D effect. Then you got a widescreen mode, which is super nice. For this case, I would definitely make use of some filters here because it looks so movie-like, to be honest. Then you have full control over each individual style right here. The maximum resolution would be here in 4K with 30 frames per second, and it looks absolutely like a movie. Then you can go live, obviously. You need an internet connection for that. Then it says already what you need to do is start tap to begin live mode, start broadcast in the pop-up window, keep the Insta360 app running in the background, open the third-party apps, so YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever app you want to use. And then there's also a hoop mode or hop mode, whatever you would not like to call it. And this mode keeps track of you while you play basketball. And it counts all the baskets. The only thing is you're gonna be restricted to a maximum resolution here of 1080p with 30 frames per second. By the way, Insta360 Flow 2 Pro works with up to 200 third-party apps such as FaceTime, TikTok, Instagram, Zoom, and it tracks yourself while recording a video or while you're in a presentation. It also works with the normal camera app, which was not possible in the past. But if you don't want to make use of the Insta360 app, you can now use also your normal iPhone camera app. Now I would like to show you how the tracking feature works. So the only thing I need to do is push this button here once. Then you see this surface here turns green and it blinks. And now I can track myself and it does a pretty good job. So and as I said, that works also with third-party apps such as FaceTime, for instance. If you have a video call and you want to have more dynamic shots, that works in combination with your iPhone. If I want to stop tracking, I push this button again and then I can also stop the video. This surface here near the thumb controller is also a trackpad. So as you can see here inside the menu, I can switch between all the different modes if you don't want to touch your phone while doing a video, for instance. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial. If you have any further questions, please make sure to leave a comment below. And if you would like to actively support my channel, you can buy this phone gimbal and all the accessories from Insta360 using the link provided in the video description below. Thank you very much and see you very soon. Tschüss.